Israel to exist. Was that sort of a slip and he made a mistake speaking, or do you think that underlying all this is that he doesn't think that Israel has a right to exist?
I think you should be interviewing him and asking him that question, because I think they walk around this issue all the time. They never just come out and say it. You know, it was very hard for me as a Likud leader to speak to my own people and my own constituents, and I said, look, as difficult as it is, as deeply attached as I am to every inch of the land of Israel, our historic homeland in Judea and Samaria, we'll have to make some compromises here, and it's going to be very painful, but I'm prepared to do it. I'm willing to set up a Palestinian state that lives in peace with Israel, providing we have proper security, but I'm not prepared to have another Iran there. In other words, to establish another Gaza there, where they'll fire rockets at our territory and not make peace with us. What I hear the Palestinians so far saying is, we want a state not to end the conflict, we want a state to continue the conflict, and that's wrong. So I think part of it is telling Abbas, or letting Abbas tell his people, it's going to be over. You know, we're going to get a state, and we're not going to try to go for Tel Aviv or the other parts of Israel. We're going to live at peace. Israel is here to stay. That's why he should recognize the Jewish state. That's so simple. But again, I don't place preconditions on beginning negotiations. I would start them right away, right now.
Well, you offered that at the end, but in listening to your speech today, when you talk about it being a theater, and then looking at sort of the reaction, I saw that, you know, of course, the Palestinians were cheering on their president, the Israelis are cheering on their prime minister, and it seems like you know, if we're all sort of creating this theater, we can't really get you guys to sort of sit down and work things out, because now your base has dug its heels in cheering.
No, my base says to me, and I say to my base, let's talk peace, let's negotiate. No, nobody prevents me from going to talk. I mean, that's the whole point. There is no symmetry.
But you've still got. I assume that you still have to have the support of your people. I mean, if everyone thinks that you're getting such a raw deal from the Palestinians because they've come in here and now they're asking for statehood, I mean, you know, that is something I would think would be somewhat of a hurdle for you to deal with.
Well, if they want statehood without peace, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it, not because people oppose it at home, because I oppose it. If they want peace and then a state, that's fine, and that's what we should be working on. But I think there's a basic asymmetry, because Israelis want peace desperately. They yearn for peace. They pray for peace. And it's very hard living in this tiny country that is being attacked day in and day out, seeing your friends die, relatives die. It's not. People want peace. Peace is very precious, especially if you've been in wars and you know how bad they are. The Palestinians can't seem to develop this kind of consensus. In Israel, I developed that consensus. I can bring, I think, the majority of Israelis to the table, and I think the Palestinians are, to use Abba Eban's immortal words, never lose an opportunity to lose an opportunity. They really have to take that courageous step and confront their people and say, we're not going to get everything we want. We're not going to flood Israel with millions of Palestinians. We're going to have to accept Israel as the Jewish state, and we'll have to make some compromises. Not only Israel will make compromises, both of us will make compromises. I'm prepared to do that. I'm prepared to sit down right now, in this room, right now.
You said that at the end of your...
on this interview, if you want. I mean,
I'd love to have him come here. I'd love to moderate it.
I say that to every interviewer. I give them the, you know, the sweepstakes. Go ahead. If you can get Abbas into the studio, I'm there. Let's do it. We're not. It's not a symmetrical thing. Israel wants peace, wants to negotiate peace. So far, the Palestinians have avoided negotiating peace. That's the simple truth.
How much does it hurt when, I mean, there are presidential people running for president in this country. If Governor Perry and Governor Romney, they both issued statements. President Clinton, I don't know if you heard what he said today. He said that you were standing in the way of any sort of peace. I mean, how does sort of the people who are not the people in office but have very influential in this country, how does that complicate things for you?
Well, first of all, I respectfully disagree with President Clinton. I've offered to make peace with the Palestinians, sit down with him time and time again, and they've avoided it. He said actually that I moved the goalposts. You know what? He's right. I moved them closer to peace. I said things and I did things that no previous prime minister has done. I froze the settlements for 10 months, the construction there. Nobody did that before. Didn't help. And it doesn't help the perception either, because no matter what we do or what we say, you know, the play is cast, the cast of characters is determined, and so it doesn't change people's minds. And I think that's part of the problem. I think the Palestinians avoid going to the negotiations, and they can try to end run this process by going to the UN because they're getting a free ride. They're getting a free ride because people actually believe that they want to negotiate peace when they're doing everything in their power to avoid it. So I disagree with that. As far as American politics, I just have enough politics of my own in Israel. I don't want to get into that.
I wasn't suggesting you get into it, but I was just curious. You're one of our best friends, and I'm curious to what extent the United States really can help this process. And I imagine if there's sort of some external noise going on, whether it's for you or against you, I imagine that makes it a little more difficult, even those who are in power in this country, to attempt to help you.
Well, I think the U.S. is doing its best, and there's a very powerful alliance between us, which, by the way, transcends prime ministers and presidents. It's just very, very strong. It's really a sense of affinity of the American people to Israel, and this may shock you, but a very strong sense of affinity of the people of Israel to America. Israel is the one country in the world you just can't be anti-American. Everybody's pro-American. And that's a bipartisan or multi-partisan sentiment in Israel, which I, as the Prime Minister, represent. And the same is true here. Whoever is the American president, there is this very, very strong friendship that the presidents represent. And at the end of the day, it's that cooperation that I think gives strength to the American position in the Middle East, because Israel is your most stable ally, and it's the one Western democracy. It's the one thing that's right about the Middle East. It's the one thing that doesn't shake.